Law Talk with Nick Maruchak. Thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law
And if you've got a question for Nick Maruchak, 133 882, get on the lines right now. I tell you what, Martin, Nick, has been waiting for a bit. How are you, by the way?
Good, Gary.
Enjoying the lovely mild weather we're having?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Excellent. It won't last. But hey, Nick, we might go straight to Martin because he's been waiting patiently. We'll come back and I definitely want to talk to you about that whole supermarket and security officers searching your bags, etc. in a second. Hello, Martin.
Oh, hi, Gary. Hi, Nick. How are you going?
Good.
Good. I've got a question. A friend of mine got married about a year and a half ago. She paid for the wedding, and now she lives with her husband now in the house which she owns, and they might be going through a divorce. Is he entitled to any part of her estate if they get divorced?
So they have been married for a year, is that right?
Yes, over a year, just over a year, yes.
And how long were they living together before the marriage?
Not long, maybe a couple of months.
Okay.
Not long.
Yeah, so with short relationships, I'm also assuming there's no children involved?
Yeah, no children, no.
Okay. So in short relationships like that, she is entitled to something because they are married. If they were in a de facto relationship and they lived together for less than 2 years, then you're not entitled to any of the person's assets. But in this case, the marriage did happen. So there is an entitlement to something, but it will be very small because it's a very short relationship, and the general rule of thumb is you basically walk away with what you brought in, and especially if there's no children. So the court has a bunch of factors that take into account. But in that case, I'll be very surprised if there's an entitlement to anything. But certainly, they can have a crack, maybe some 5%, maybe 10% at the max is my guess. And there's also something called spousal maintenance as well. Because you're married, you do trigger that liability where spousal maintenance is basically child support for adults, where if one of the parties to the marriage can't support themselves and the other person has financial capacity, you can apply to the court to get some sort of weekly payment from them for a certain period of time. But that all depends on the other person's capacity to pay. So that might be a risk.
What do you think, Martin? That makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, at the moment he's unemployed, so she basically pays for everything. So, I'll take it on board. I'll tell her.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he might be entitled to a small percentage. Yep,
and
because they've been together for more than a year.
Yeah, that's right. And so the best thing to do is either if no one's name, if it's only in someone's sole name, so that should be fine. If it's in joint names, then it might be a problem.
Yeah,
right. But her name's not.
Is it? I don't know because my impression was, it's the old 50-50 thing. But not necessarily.
No, 50-50, it's not 50-50 straight away. That's not an automatic thing. You tend to get 50-50 once you're in a longer relationship, more than 10, 15, 20-year mark. Yeah. But it all depends on a bunch of factors like who brought the money in, did everyone pull their weight in terms of the house and raising the kids and stuff like that. And also people's health. If you've got poor health, you might get a little bit more.
Do they look at extenuating circumstances in relation to why the relationship broke up?
No, it's a no-fault system here.
Oh, really?
So you don't have to. You don't get more money if you can prove if the other person cheated on you.
Yeah, you don't get any more.
No, well, it's a no-fault divorce, which I think makes sense, right? Because you would open up such a can of worms, right? If you could start looking at, the relationship broke down because this person was just a bad husband.
That's right. Well, I had it because they had an affair. Well, yeah, they had an affair because, you guys never slept in the same bed. It would just go on, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so you can have an affair and it won't affect your entitlement to the buddy. So
all right. Okay, Martin, good luck with that one. 133 882 if you'd like to ask Nick a question. It might not be about a divorce or anything like that, but it might be something going on in your life you'd like some guidance around. Hey, you did hear that discussion that we had, which was around the idea that there are people outside. We identified a couple of particular shopping centres. So outside the supermarket, not inside, not at the exit, but outside as you're about to go to your car, for example, with your groceries, who are just coming up and saying, can we please have a look in your bag? Can we please see your receipts? What do you think of it?
Okay. So these people that came up, they're not police officers. They were private security guards. So this is the advice that I have or suggestion. So first of all, if a security guard comes up to you and asks you to search your bag, what they're asking for is your consent. So say no. You do not have my consent to search the bag. And sometimes if if the situation happens quite quickly, you kind of say, you mumble something and you kind of imply yes, then you've given them consent and they can search through the bag. That's where they have the right to do it. So make sure you expressly say no consent is given. Then what happens is they have the right to potentially remove you from the premises if it's private property, right? And then you have to leave. If you don't give consent, what they can do is they can do something called a citizen's arrest. But they can only do a citizen's arrest if there is a reasonable suspicion that you've committed an offence that's serious enough for you to go to jail, potentially shoplifting would be, and they can only detain you for reasonably necessary for the police to arrive. The citizen's arrest power doesn't give private security officers, the power to search for your stuff, right? So that's the options. If you're in that situation and they ask you, you say no, then you might risk leaving. Otherwise, the citizen's arrest. And remember, there was a person that got in trouble in the media where he arrested some young children.
Yes.
He tied a rope around them and he argued citizen's arrest and he lost.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea of citizen's arrest, just use enough force as necessary to detain the person.
Right. Okay. I was going to say that. So is it a difference if you're still inside the supermarket, though? Let's say you're still inside the supermarket, you've just checked out, and then the person comes up and says, can I please check your receipts and your bags in that instance? Because the thing that I'm kind of getting here is that you've done all that, you've checked out, you've left, you've gone through the sliding doors out of the entrance to the actual shopping centre, and that's where they're trying to stop you.
Yeah.
Does it make any difference if you're inside their store, I wonder?
No, it's basically what they're doing is the security person has no greater power than a random stranger. They're coming up to you and asking you, can I search your bags? And you can say yes or no. They've got obviously a badge or some sort of clothing that gives that position of authority where people like in a panic might say no, might say yes and give them the consent to search just out of panic. But it doesn't make a difference where it is. If you say no, then...
No's no.
No's no.
Right.
And then the option is, what do? Their move next. Are they going to do a citizen's arrest? If they want to do a citizen's arrest,
have something.
They got to have some proper basis to do it. And it's not like they're going to pound on you right away for a citizen's arrest. Because if you say, I'm going to arrest you, citizen's arrest, because I'm going to arrest you because of suspicion of stealing.
Yeah, not because you're refusing to let me look in your bag, surely.
Absolutely not.
All right.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like people just need to, if they're uncomfortable with it, and I would be, if someone said, I want to go through your bag, then I'd just say no. And then if they say to you, well, you're going to need to leave the precinct of this shopping centre, well, you were going to anyway.
Exactly.
All right. Fascinating. Okay. Bronwyn's there. Hello, Bronwyn.
Hi, hello.
What's up, Bronwyn?
Just wondering, so my son's looking at buying his first home. His girlfriend does live with him, but won't be putting any part into the home, as in financial or on the loan or anything. What should he put in place, really?
Okay, so you got this timeline. Have they got any children together at this stage? I'm assuming no.
No.
Okay, so he's got basically, when you start living with someone, you have 2 years, as long as you're not married, to establish a de facto relationship. So so the girlfriend will have a right to claim against the assets after 2 years of living in the relationship. So that's the exposure. Obviously, the longer it goes, the more she can claim. So the best way to protect yourself is through a binding financial agreement, a prenup it's called. The way it works is a lawyer prepares the document and it basically decides who keeps what when you separate. So your son might say, I want to keep the house if I separate. You don't have any claim to it. And then so you get that document signed, prenup. The thing with a prenup is both parties have to get legal advice so they know exactly what they're signing up to, because what you're doing is you're excluding the jurisdiction of the family court. So you have to go in there with eyes wide open, and both parties' lawyers have to sign the document to say, yep, they understood it. And then it's pretty solid until they have children, right? So when you have a child, that's one way to overturn it. So we've discussed this before, but it's not guaranteed. But prenup is the best way to do it when they start living together. So deadline is 2 years, and that's...
How do you reckon the girlfriend would go being asked to sign a prenup, Bronwyn?
Yeah, well, I have actually put that out there, and it didn't go down too well.
No. All right.
But I would say if she was buying a house, I'd be making my son sign one.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's hers.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway.
How long overall have they been together?
Probably over a year, nearly 2 now.
Yeah.
In and out. She's goes home or lives with him. But
Okay. All
yeah.
right. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting discussions coming up there in the family around Christmas time, Bronwyn.
Yep. As soon as she starts living in there and they start in a marriage-like relationship, that's when it really starts counting, right? Because if you're girlfriend, boyfriend, not really living together, you're okay. But
Yeah, all right. Okay. Good luck with it, Bronwyn. It's 13 to 12. Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. Back in a sec. All right, let's go back to the lines. Brett's there. Hey, Brett.
How you going?
Good.
Hey, look, I bought a $1,300 tool from that Sydney Tools on Saturday. I brought it home, opened it up Sunday. The trigger was broken. Has never been used or nothing. Just broken out of the box. I took it back there on the Tuesday, and they've said to me they've got to send it away, and I won't get it back for another 5 weeks.
Oh.
So I've got to go buy a new one now. And also I've said, well, I don't want it anymore. I just want to return it.
Mhm.
And they've said, well, if we don't get it back from the warranty within the 14 days, you can't return it either.
All right.
So
Well,
I've got to buy 2 of them now.
why can't they just replace it?
Yep. So
I've got no idea, mate.
Oh.
They've said because it was broken, it's not a failure out of the box or something.
So this tool is used. All right. So Australian consumer law applies. It sounds like you might be buying it for a business, but Australian consumer law still applies for businesses for tools that are under a certain price. So that one is captured. Basically, if something is defective, it doesn't work. All goods come with consumer guarantees. They have to be durable and free of defects for a reasonable period of time. If they don't comply, you're entitled to a refund, right? So you would just go Australian consumer law. I want a refund. I can't wait for the 5 weeks.
Oh, I'm getting a lawyer.
And yeah,
I'm
but
getting a lawyer.
as soon as you mention Australian consumer law, right?
Have a go.
That will do
Right.
it. So they have to replace it, and it doesn't matter if they get a refund from the manufacturer or not. That's on them, right?
Yeah.
When you sell the tools, the shop has to
Refund,
refund.
or replacement. I mean,
Yeah.
if they said, okay, we'll swap it over for a new one, for one without the broken trigger, fine, do that, Brett. But go back in there, wave your arms around and say, I'm getting a lawyer.
or Department of Consumer Protection after that, and yeah.
Simon's next. G'day, Simon.
Hey, Nick, how you doing? I've got a curly one for you. Recently bought a car, brand new, and it's actually got like a keypad in order to gain access into the car. So you've got your key fob, of course, but you can also just use a keypad. Trick is my keypad code is incredibly simple that I'd call it unsafe.
Right.
So I've been back to the dealer to say this isn't cool, and it's kind of like, oh well, that's just the way the computer generated those digits. Too bad, so sad.
What?
And I'm like, correct. Yes.
Yep. So
Yeah. All right.
I'm
Okay.
pushing gently forward with it, but I would imagine that. What can I do about that if it's incredibly simple that it makes it unsecure?
What sort of car is it? Can I ask that? No, better not actually. But I'm just trying to figure out the parameters here. Well, I don't know. Crikey, that's a tough one, Nick.
well, this is what I think, Brett. I think it's Australian consumer law again. Sorry, Simon. Basically, what happens is the car has to be fit for purpose. And the purpose of this security lock is to protect your car. It has to be it can't be a very simple
No.
digit process, right?
No.
So I think that they've breached Australian consumer law because the car and especially the security device is not fit for purpose, right? If it's too simple, the code is generated too simple, then that's what I would push back on. So you write to them and say, Australian consumer law, I want a refund, or I want the thing fixed. If they don't honour it, then go to the Department of Consumer Protection, or you can also go to the Magistrates Court, commence a claim for the refund of the vehicle. So it's when you buy something, it has to do what's on the packet. And
the whole idea of having the security PIN code is for the security.
Yep.
I know it goes without saying. And they want you to these days. They want you to not in necessarily a car, but they want you to add, digits and dollar signs and exclamation marks and everything to your sort of passcodes that you're putting into online stuff. So
you can't have something where you can just go
no
11111.
no, and it's not that, by the way.
That's my
folks.
first guess.
But yeah.
That's like that, but it's very simple.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't have something too easy to do. Simon, you fight it, mate. I mean, sometimes you just got to keep fighting it.
Yeah.
And then say, I'm getting a lawyer.
Yeah, you can threaten
That's my
it.
advice today. Get a lawyer.
Threaten it, and then they'll go, oh, too hard. All right, fine.
All right. Okay. Now, when we finish on air, I'll show you something Nick, that puts me in a very similar situation to what you just talked about there, because I'm not going to say anything more than that on air, but yeah, I'll show you something that will surprise you. Nick Maruchak, thanks very much for coming in and giving up your time. We really appreciate your help.
Thank you, Gary.
Good on you, Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal. It's 4 minutes to 12.